Alright, welcome back to Handy Andy. I know I got a little bit of sun in my face. Sun's like right at this angle. We get about 15-30 minutes before it falls right behind that tree. I get shade here. I'm going to finish wiring up the X-Carve controller today. When I took it apart, I was really smart, or so I know myself. Took pictures of the connectors. I just looked at the connector photos myself, and I realized that they're not all uniformed. And the reason for that is that we have an Y1 and a Y2. So we have Y1 here and Y2 over here, side to side. And with that, when I first put it together, the two Y-axes run up and down like this, right, for the Y-axis. Well, they were doing this and binding up, so I had to flip one of them over so they would ride up and down the rails on there. So I'm gonna quickly do that, and via the magic of editing, you're gonna see this go pretty fast. All right, I'll probably be bitching and cussing the whole time because that's how it happens. Well, there we go. I got the four-stepper motors wired up. We're that much closer to getting ready. What I'm going to do now is work on the limit switches here. First thing I'm going to do, and if you saw me earlier, is that some of these leads are actually a little too long. So if I go grab this here, I can actually, I'm going to see if I can zoom this in, so give me a second. Yep, look at that. When I put it in, they're not that bad. I don't see the plastic sticking out too much, but I do the metal. I can see it here. You guys probably can't. So what I'm going to do is take off about an 1/8 of an inch or so on each of these. One thing to note: be careful when doing this with some. When you clip them, they go flying. Earlier I was clipping those other wires, and it was flying and hitting the car and right there in the next to us, and it's like, oh yeah, if we had another person around, it'd probably hurt. I've gotten hit before with these, and they take hurt. So I'm gonna pause right now. You can see now I clipped them all up, and I'm gonna go look for a multimeter because I need to find out where each one of these is located, so I know which one is X, Y, and Z. All right, I'll be right back, guys. So I went hunting for a multimeter. If anybody doesn't know what a multimeter is, it's a device that you can measure different parts of electrical flow, both DC and AC. I usually have to go hunting for one because I usually have 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know. Some work, some don't. So this little guy is probably the one that always works for me. It's a little tiny one. And you see on the dial there's a bunch of words and stuff like that. On the top here we have V, which is for voltage, and you can see that it's a line and a dot dot, like doing shoot. I was gonna say SOS, but you would do a SOS on there. But then the other one has a V and a squiggly, and you can see that squiggly there. And with that squiggly, it means AC. So I'm gonna change it to ohms, which is right here, and with the ohm set up I'll be able to tell if which switch is which. And I'm seeing the dead battery sign on my camera, so if I die and this ends it, I apologize, but if I set it to 200 ohms, you can see here it goes down to 0 or close to 0. I'm going to pop it off, it goes back to open circuit. Do it again, and you can see it goes down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook it up to the first one that I want to, and click all the switches and see which one it is. So I'll click it and then I'll come back and see which one it is. It's not the Y. Let's see, where's the Z? Or where's the X? Not the Z. The last one is X, though. Which is, I think, on the carriage back here. There it is. So I found the X. So now that I found the X, I'll wire it up. I'm going to stop recording now and actually put the camera to charge. This really sucks. But it's going to be the same thing. I'm just going to wire them up and get going, alright? Talk to you guys after the camera's charged a bit more. Alright, so I put the camera to charge. I got a bit more charge now. The sun's finally behind the tree, so you don't see me. I was able to get all the cables installed. You can see them there. So I got all the stepper motor and the limit switches. So now what I'm going to do is I went to the hardware store to allow the camera to charge a little bit more, and I picked up some stuff. So I have a solid state relay that I'm going to use that triggers off of one of the ports here, and then that's going to go to a few ports that I have. I got some wire nuts. We got an extension cord.
I'm sorry. It was bloody, dude.
I'll edit that out.
Yes, please.
I got you
He
covered.
scared me.
Why? Because he went up to you?
Yes, he wanted to touch me.
Ah. So I got an extension cord to use for cabling, so I'm going to cut this up and cable up the router. And then, let's see what else, other good stuff. Oh, I got a box to put a switch on for the blower. So I'll put that there. And then I got a plug for the blower, so the blower can plug into it. And then I got my wife a little blower attachment for a Dremel. I thought that was pretty cool. I've never seen that before. A faceplate. A light switch. And an end plug in case I need to cut the other end off. Actually, this is for the router, so I can plug it into something if I need to. And that was it. So I'm gonna put my thoughts together and then I'll start recording again. Alright, so right here you're gonna see that I have actually the router head and the Z-axis here, and that's the X and the Y goes up and down. Now what I did here is you see a couple zip ties, and that's the cord, the power cord to the router. And then over here, if you look, it's kind of loose. So what I'm going to do is zip tie it to this cable organizer so it can go back and forth. Then chop off the end here and pass it through where all the other cables are coming out here, which are here, to come out to here where I'm going to set up the SSR, the solid state relay, and then see how that works. And then this way I can fire it up and see if the router turns on and off with it. So that's what it's gonna look like there. Alright, let's try it. So I was able to get the power cord for the router out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip a little bit of the insulation off and start getting going on the wiring job. This should be pretty quick. There we go. I'm going to zoom in real fast. You can see I split these wires here. That's the black and white from the router. what I'm going to do then is attach, let's look at the black or the white, to this terminal here, and then this terminal will go to the power source. And then these two right here, this one and this one, will go down into the back here, where we have one thing that's called flood. That's what they call it here. And with the flood, what happens is when the unit comes online, it sends a small enough voltage to actually trigger this, turn this on, which turns the router on, and eventually we'll also turn on the blower that you guys haven't seen. It's down in the garage back there, and that's going to create a suction to keep the dust out of there. Alright, so I'm going to mess around with this now. Now what I just did, I'm about 6 foot tall. Theoretically speaking, when you stretch out hand to hand, you're usually, your arm reach is as wide as you are tall, in theory. So what I did is I measured out basically 12 feet. What this is going to do is that I'll be able to plug this into the wall and then have power for the router through here. So that's what I'm doing now. So that's what I was looking for. Of course, your green wire is ground, white, and then neutral. So my plan is to use this outdoor electrical box. Inside are actually 2 little punch holes. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see the punch holes. So there's one here and one here. I can punch those out and use those as mounting holes. So I'm planning to mount this back here, right back there. And then that's going to allow me to run the power cord in here, mount it, ground it, and then mount the light switch in here, which will be right about here. And then I have a cover, and this will then, either this one, and maybe return these, or I didn't think about it, I could just put this as a pigtail for the blower, and the blower just plugs in here. And then what the light switch is for is a bypass for the blower. I do want the blower turning on and off with the router, but sometimes when the machine's off, I'm going to want to run the blower or the dust collector independently, so I can actually go and clean up all the dust that has built up while it was cutting a large project. So I'm going to get going on this. Alright. So I had an idea, is how do I keep these in here and it doesn't really have a tie down. I was looking, sometimes they have these little screws that go inside here to tie it down so it doesn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread the cables through like this. So now I have the out to the dust collector, blower, whatever you want to call it, and then the plug to the wall. And then what I'm going to do now, sorry. So I got a couple of these zip ties, right? You saw me using them earlier. I think if I zip tie this, or put like a collet around it, it'll create enough of a catch so it doesn't come out. Let's see. Alright, so this is what I did, see? Is I put zip ties, but facing each other way. So this one's on this side, and this one's on this side. So if I put it sideways, see, it's creating a collet per se, or a way. So when I pull this all the way, exactly as I thought, it won't come out. So you see in there, it's staying nice and snug in there. And what I'll probably do is put a couple more on this side, so that way I can hold all the wires in there. We'll see. Alright. One thing I'm going to do real fast is knock out those screw holes. Back. How to use the cement for a hard surface. I'm going to show you the back. See the back? I punched them out so you can kind of see through them. See, I can block it. And now I popped off a little piece there, and I need to pop off this one here. So a little piece comes out like that. Okay. Looks like a little ball actually. So I'm just going to get a screwdriver and push it the rest of the way through. Alright, see? So now I have a way to mount it to the board. This little piece I'm going to use to actually connect the router and to the power and to the SSR. So you'll see what I'm doing here.